Hello, everyone, and welcome to Off-Road with Frank Ferraro, and I'm your host, Frank Ferraro. And today, our guest is Sam Bousfield. He's the CEO of Samson Sky. Samson Sky is the home of the Switchblade, and that's your flying car. Sam, welcome to Off-Road.
Hey, you bet. Thanks a lot, Frank, and thanks for having me on. It's an honor to be on something like this. You've made a name for yourself, for sure.
Thank you so much. Hey, when I first saw the company and I first learned a little bit about what you were doing, I was enamored. I'm like, wow, this is like the Jetsons coming to life. This is so cool. I was really excited to even have come on. I gotta ask you something. What inspired you to create the Samson Switchblade? And how did you first conceive of the idea of a flying car?
Sure. Artists dream the future. That's pretty commonly understood. You have the Jetsons, like you mentioned. You have anything of the future like Blade Runner, Fifth Element, Star Wars, Star Trek, all of them. Pretty much anything that shows a future in a future that you'd want to be in, right? It is most of the travel is in the air, and right now most of the travel is on the ground. When I started looking at this and figuring out what's the future, what can we do with, I saw that in the future, of course, yes, up in the air, but right now we're mostly on the ground. How do you deal with that? For me, I figured that for a lot of years we're going to be needing something that does both. It will operate on the ground or in the air, and the reason being, say if you've got the vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, they can operate in the air easily, be just like the Jetsons, right? But the Jetsons had lots of places to land, or they had these little tubes that dropped you down, which we don't have yet.
We're not there yet, no.
So that's not quite there, and it'll take a long time before there's enough landing places around to really use those the way they should be used.
Elon Musk is around. He can do that. He's ready for that.
He is absolutely a dead set on making his little roadster fly. I'll see how that goes.
Now, I got to tell you something. What were some of the biggest engineering challenges in developing a vehicle that transitions seamlessly between flying and driving?
The biggest problem that we had is we set the bar so high. Most flying car guys, when they design one, they've said, the agreement now is, if it's a flying car, it's a combination vehicle, so it's going to be a mediocre car and a mediocre plane, and that's as good as it can be. Just disagreed.
Go ahead, we're good.
So the one thing that we decided was we're going to set the bar high, and that meant high performance in both modes, because people, in my mind, they'll buy performance over mediocrity any day of the week. And they also want it stylish. Set out with that goal in mind, and now we've gotten over 125 miles an hour on the ground. We beat everything in Road and Track's historical database in our category for their slalom course, the 8 cones 100 feet apart, slalom. We've flown, I guess I'll say, our target is 160 miles an hour in the air for cruise speed, and that's not mediocre. That's a high performance vehicle.
Oh, wow.
So that sets us apart in a lot of ways. We're also 3 wheels, which is an unusual category or another usual way to do it, but we've designed it in a way that it is, like I say, very high performance and very fun to drive. This thing goes like a rocket.
That's cool. That sounds really cool. Now, how do you see flying cars like Samson Switchblade fitting into the future of transportation? And what makes the demand, and what are you aiming to fulfill?
The Switchblade flying car, for instance, if we are into production and getting the rates that we want to see with our production, will be something that people can use in the existing infrastructure and with no new regulations. So we could go out tomorrow and be building these, and people could be using them the day after. And that's a really great place to be, rather than saying, okay, we need batteries that don't exist yet, or we need rules that aren't agreed to. We don't need any of that. So that's the biggest part of how we would be ready to go.
Yeah, but there are a few things like there's got to be a regulatory landscape. What are some of the regulatory hurdles you faced, and how Samson Sky navigated the evolving rules for air and road travel?
Yes, the rules for the ground. So you've got the DOT on one side, rules for the ground, and for a car, they're like a foot thick. They're just huge amounts of rules. We're 3 wheels, so we're classed as a motorcycle. So for us, motorcycle regs are like an inch thick. They're really easy to figure, and they don't change much. You can deal with that, and we can serve the 2 masters. That's fine if they have small rules. That was the biggest thing for walking down this business-wise, is we had to know that we could get to the end and have a company that could actually do something and be productive and get the vehicle out into the world. And having 2 masters with big sets of rules on each side meant, no, that's not going to happen. So we set it up so that we could have a future The regulations are almost non-existent for us, which is really nice.
What about safety? Safety is a major concern for vehicles in the air. What innovations has Samson Sky implemented to ensure the Switchblade is as safe as possible?
The Switchblade has many features which are above even what's required of a vehicle like this. We have the same thing in mind. We want a safe vehicle for people to operate. They're going to be a fully enclosed inside the vehicle like a car, and even though we're classed as a motorcycle, not required to have crumple zones, front and rear, side intrusion protection, seat belts even. We decided and looked at it like, people are going to drive this like it's a car. They're going to feel as safe as if they're in a car. We need to go that extra mile. And even though not required, we do provide front and rear crumple zones, replaceable nose structure, just like a car would. If you get in a fender bender, you can replace it and go pretty easily. And rollover protection, side intrusion, seat belts, of course. We drew the line at airbags because we couldn't find a manufacturer of airbag that would. You got airbags on the ground, that's fine, and they're very useful and helpful. But you get an airbag up in the air and you hit some turbulence and it bounces the vehicle, that airbag goes off, you can't fly anymore.
That's not good. That's not good.
No, that's not good.
That's not good.
We haven't found that one a solution yet. We're still looking. But we also have one other feature which is very critical for things in anything that flies, and it's better than most out there. And we can drive or fly. So if you're flying along and the weather turns bad in front of you, not per what the weather forecast was, you're not stuck like you are in a plane. You can just drop down at the closest airport, drive underneath the weather, and when you're beyond it, pop up the end again and keep going. So you never really stopped. We also do have a whole vehicle parachute in case you just can't manage it up there for some reason. You can push that little magic red button and down you come.
Now I want one. It's safe and everything. Who do you envision your primary customer base to be, and what kind of training or licensing will they need to operate a Switchblade?
At first we were thinking that and I believe it's still true, our primary market, if you will, would be the existing pilots. There's about 600,000 existing pilots in the US. And so that's a reasonable market. When we first surveyed them, we got good results at a certain price range. So that's where we wanted to go. And I think that what happened is over the years, we've found more and more non-pilots signing up for the Switchblade. And we couldn't figure it because we were only really marketing on a limited basis. And that was to existing pilots. So we did another market survey, found out that, gee, there's a big group, 2 million plus, 2.5 million, something like that. Or no, excuse me, 21 million regional travelers in the US that drive 500-mile trips or 200 to 500-mile trips each year. And out of those 21 million people, quite a number when we surveyed the group, a huge amount would get a pilot's license to get one. They would pay the price that we would need to charge for it. They would participate 1 week at the factory to get the price that they named. And those kinds of things showed us that we had a huge potential market. So we looked at that and went, wow, we have more on this than we think.
Now, what about going into production? Can you share some insights into your manufacturing process and how you plan to scale production to meet potential demand?
Our manufacturing has been a primary concern for us because we had to keep a certain price range, and carbon fiber is very expensive the way it's done now, especially for small vehicles. So we've searched and developed and pushed forward technologies over the past 5 years in order to be able to have something that is not only half the cost of traditional carbon fiber techniques, but also 8 times faster to make. And so far, only Boeing and Airbus have been able to utilize that type of manufacturing. But we have a pretty good list. We have, I think we're the most popular flying car in history. We have orders from 57 different countries. We have reservations, 2,300, growing daily. And we have 130 people who prepaid in advance for the earliest vehicles. So there's a lot of buy-in for this, especially now that we have the final design that looks so cool. But the main thing is that we're ready and we can do it. And I think that when we have the production going and actually I'm just fading. What's the last part of your question?
Just what have you guys taken to meet the demand? You're good.
Okay, got it. All right, so cool. So that's the main thing, is that we are moving on a production method that's not only environmentally friendly and faster.
That was actually my next question. What steps has Samson Sky taken to ensure that the Switchblade is environmentally friendly and fuel efficient?
We do have a hybrid electric power plant ready for full electric when we can do it. Right now, batteries don't exist that will make it possible to go high and fast and far with battery.
It was still not in the Jetsons landscape yet.
Still not there yet, but hybrid electric sets us up for that. So we can do that in the future as soon as it's ready. And we can do hybrid electric now with a gas motor and a generator. But the manufacturing is really where we shine in the environmental area. We do use unleaded auto fuels rather than leaded aviation fuel. So that's one benefit for sure. But the manufacturing is really great because the type of method that we use to produce the carbon fiber to get the cost and price down also is environmentally friendly in the fact that it gives off no toxic gases during manufacture like regular carbon does. So the area around the plant doesn't have to breathe our fumes. Our employees don't have to wear masks or respirators, no papa suits to protect their skin. And it's also fully recyclable at the end of life. So the vehicle being almost all out of carbon fiber, fully recyclable, and it also is no waste manufacturing because all the little chips and extra pieces, trimmings and everything else, they just get put in a pile and they use for non-structural parts. So we use our own waste, if you will.
Now, the concept of flying cars has been pursued by different companies in the past. What sets Samson Sky apart in this space?
The main thing that sets us apart is that obviously we're high performance and no one's really been able to do that except for us, I'll say. But we also fully protect the wings, all flying surfaces, and the propellers and everything else on the ground. So no one can access your flight equipment while you're parked and eating in a restaurant or anything like that. Very safe from that point of view, and it gives people peace of mind that they know their vehicle's in good working order when they go to use it to take off. Turns out that's really important for insurance that we've talked to will not insure a flying car that does not protect flying surfaces on the ground. And since we're the only ones that do that, I'm not sure how the other guys are going to get insurance.
Oh, wow. Okay. And going down the road, have you entered into the capital markets at all? Are you looking for investors? What's going on that front?
Samson has raised over 11 million to date.
Okay.
And so we're currently offering a Regulation D 506C private offering for stock in a C Corp company. It's a C Corp. Awesome. And that is out for accredited investors. Reasonable terms. Our third-party valuation came out way higher than what we're offering this raise at. So we hope that this one goes pretty quickly and people realize that it is a very good deal.
Hopefully some people from this podcast like what you have to say and come along. What about the future? There's a lot of different ancillary parts that go along with the flying car. Beyond Switchblade, what other innovations or projects are you working on that could revolutionize this industry?
I think that the most that I could talk about today would be the advancements along the lines of the Switchblade, because the Switchblade today takes a private pilot license to operate it, driver's license on the ground, but the future looks like it's heading towards a direction of autonomy, and I think that's something that we're moving forward with as well. So we have a ramp up of technology that we'll utilize and bring in steps along the way. The first is an AI co-pilot to help unburden the pilot when it's going in and out of busy airports or things. You need a little extra hand. The AI can step in and help with that. That can extend further as that technology is proven to where it can take on over more and more of the flying ability of the aircraft and eventually the driving as well. They're already doing autonomous cars. Autonomous flying is easier actually to accomplish. So that's really what we look forward to is moving that route. And the next step after AI would be the full fly-by-wire setup. In other words, electric flying controls. The pilot moves controls like right now cars have fly-by-throttle, throttle-by-wire I should say. And most cars operate on that basis, and we'll be operating a lot of similar things for the flying portion, and that'll lead to something that we can certify to the FAA that will provide point-to-point travel on demand. You call up your Uber, Lyft, or whatever, and it comes in, picks you up, takes you, flies you, drops you off where you want to go.
Super, super, super cool. Sam, I want to thank you for coming on Off-Road today. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what is the website that they can reach?
SamsonSky.com, SamsonSky.com. A great website with lots of data in it. We have, from there you can launch in the bottom of the page and go over to the YouTube and Facebook, LinkedIn. All those are open and operational.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much for coming on.
Good deal, Frank. Thanks.
All right. Have a good day.